St. Louis sports fans, go deeper with STL Sports Central Insiders. Get exclusive access to Bernie, Randy, Claves, Jamal Mayers, and more, plus your chance to watch a Blues game in the Alumni Box with Jamal himself. Monthly giveaways, Bernie's columns all week, and support for local sports media. Join now at stlsportscentral.com.
It was a real busy Wednesday at the winter meetings, and, well, it's still not over yet, but we will bring you all of the news up to date the best we can here on today's Card Central 365. Brendan Schaefer, Joe Roderick with you, and we're brought to you by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Brenden, we will get into all the little news and notes. Pete Alonso signing with the Orioles, Rule 5 draft, Joe Buck going into the Hall of Fame. But Derek Gould with a report. And yesterday, you and I kind of talked about Derek having those contacts with other teams and looking around all of baseball. The San Francisco Giants have emerged as one of the teams, one of the organizations that is showing a lot of interest in Brendan Donovan. And the Giants are a team that are usually a big spender, usually trying to compete against the Dodgers. And I would imagine that many fans in the Bay Area are none too pleased that the Dodgers are now back-to-back World Series champions, and much like the Padres, willing to do whatever it's going to take to kind of put an end to that reign in LA. So the Giants going after a piece like a Brendan Donovan would make a lot of sense, especially since they would not probably stop there. That they would probably want to keep adding on to that, but knowing that they could have a player like that you could plug into a lot of different spots on the field would be a huge benefit to a team like San Francisco.
Yeah, I think it would be a benefit. And then for the Cardinals, you're asking yourself, what can they do for us to benefit our team? I'm taking a look first at the Giants and their depth chart in the starting rotation, because, again, when we talked about Donovan to the Royals and that possibility, we talk about Donovan to Seattle and what that could look like. I think in each case, there are some starting arms that exist within those organizations that you could reasonably expect to be involved if the Cardinals are going to get a deal done there. The Giants have a number of names listed on their starting rotation depth chart behind Logan Webb and Robbie Ray that are more of the less proven variety and maybe various degrees of intrigue that the Cardinals could have, with a number of names like Carson Whisenhunt, Landon Roupp, Carson Seymour, Trevor McDonald. Those are four names that are listed among 6 starters, according to the Giants' official depth chart. It may not mean all that much here in December, but gives you an idea. Some of these guys have had some decent big league experiences so far, and maybe depending on how the Cardinals view some of those names, could one or two of them be names that they would target in a deal? And then you look into the prospect stores, I think, of any team that you would be talking with when it comes to Brendan Donovan. Seems like the Cardinals are in a good spot here, Joe. I mean, when you've got 3 teams that seem like there's a match to be made there, maybe one or two of those teams aren't willing to quite meet the ask, but it only takes one to be able to get a deal done. It seems like this is something the Cardinals want to do. I'll continue to reiterate, I would prefer to see the Cardinals extend Donovan, but knowing that that's not really a strong likelihood at this point, another team that has maybe some pitching that comes with a lot of team control, the Giants, I think, are a team that could potentially fit here.
Yeah, and the pitching that you mentioned too, with Carson Whisenhunt, Trevor McDonald, those are 2 guys that are listed on in their rotation for next year that are in their top 20 on the pipeline. So guys that they do think highly of and factor into next season. And when you look at the Giants too, I mean, the veteran presence at the top of that rotation, I'm going to say that at some point Max Scherzer will sign with the Giants this offseason as well.
Right.
So they will have another arm to add to the mix too. So they will be they will be heavy with the pitchers there. Brendan Donovan, the way he fits in with that team, I would think just right there. I mean, probably into second base, but also left field. I mean, both of those are needs of the Giants, it would look like, going into next season.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty obvious that second base would be a spot for him. Their current depth chart lists Casey Schmidt and Christian Koss I don't know that there's a lot of competition there for Brendan Donovan. So yeah, sliding him into, I think, go ahead and say second base, and then you figure out a variety of possibilities when it comes to the outfield and what the Giants want to do there. I think it would make sense from their perspective. I look at it very similarly to how I do the Royals conversation we had earlier this week, where they could really use somebody to slot in and cover a spot on that infield. For the Royals, we talked a lot about leadoff being an area of need for them. But any lineup that Brendan Donovan goes into where he fits positionally, he's also going to fit as one of the team's, 4 or 5 best contributors offensively in most cases. So the Giants, when you kind of look up and down their lineup, there are some names, but maybe not a lot of star power outside of like a Rafael Devers and Matt Chapman. So you want to probably add somebody to bring a little bit of depth to that lineup. He might slot in right behind in terms of prominence, like possibly a Willie Adames, depending on how you view that player. Brendan Donovan would be a really good fit for the Giants, and hopefully such that they view it as exactly the way you said, especially if they get a Max Scherzer. They can sit here and go, man, we know how valuable pitching is, but we are in the position right now where we have a lot of it, and what we don't have is that type of, second baseman, top of the lineup threat to be able to tie our lineup together. And I think that would increase the Giants' willingness to trade a player that's going to have a lot more team control than what Brendan Donovan brings, but maybe a guy that's already been a little bit proven at the big league level. Like some of these arms have had some decent stints in the big leagues. And kind of like when we talked about Noah Cameron from Kansas City, you can bear this out and go, well, man, 5-6 years of team control for only a couple of Brendan Donovan. Is that even? Well, this guy's already a proven all-star. The pitcher could become that, whichever one you may decide to trade, but you're in a position where you've got to trade from a surplus for something you don't have. And I think the Cardinals are kind of fortunate that multiple teams fit this billing, where you could make an argument that it's in their best interest to trade a controllable starting arm for what Brendan Donovan could bring to the table. Because I think if you're the Cardinals, does your lineup get worse if it's Thomas Saggese for 150 games instead of Brendan Donovan next year? Yeah, sure, it does. But man, pitching has really been what's held the team back in recent years, whether it's been as a result of not having internal options that they have to go out and spend a bunch in free agency like they did when they nabbed Sonny Gray, Lance Lynn, and Kyle Gibson in the same offseason. And that was to kind of stabilize the rotation that you were afraid the bottom would drop back out of it again like it did in 2023. But you didn't really have a ton of upside with chasing those types of names in free agency. You're going to be kind of stuck in the middle, and that's what happened. And so you kick the can further down the road. I think the Cardinals want to tear it down and really be able to throw a bunch of arms at this problem, come into spring training with 7-8 guys maybe that could compete for a starting spot. And if any one of them emerge, Joe, as a viable candidate, well, that's great because you're going to have that guy controllable for a handful of years moving forward. I think that's what they're hoping to accomplish with this Brendan Donovan trade, and the Giants are yet another team that could fit the billing there.
If you go back yesterday and you watch either, or I guess listen to the YouTube post that we made, or the go to wherever you would download your podcast, we had the Heimblum kind of scrum, the local media scrum yesterday. We have the audio for that up on STL Sports Central. You can listen to what he had to talk about with the variety of St. Louis media that is down in Orlando. And he was, first thing that was brought up was Brendan Donovan. And he said, you know what? I was just on the MLB Network, and I said, yeah, we're having to listen. Like, teams are calling. It's my job to listen to what these teams are saying. And it does, you do get the sense that Heimblum really, really wants a Brendan Donovan on his team. We talked about this, that all 29 teams should be interested in Brendan Donovan. So should the Cardinals, because he's
all 30. Yeah, I don't like that phrasing. All 30 should be. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he is proven to be everything you want in a baseball player. But I think Heimblum is also realizing, okay, you know what, this is not going to be our year. I have to see what the biggest haul I can get back is going to be. So, I think as he's there and as he's talking to people, I think more and more each and every day, I think Heimblum is understanding and probably coming to the end result that it might be in our best interest to part ways with Brendan Donovan and see the haul that we can get back. I say that, though, because one of the other questions that was asked was about the third base position, because you're now looking at a left-handed bat that has to go, or two. Nolan Arenado has to go. Brendan Donovan, who's one of those left-handed bats, is in all of these rumors now. So the question was, what are you going to do with third base next year? Like, is that something that you can still fill from within? And it did seem like Chaim Bloom was pretty much set on saying, yeah, we do think we're not going to have to go outside to get that. So I guess that's where Nolan Gorman, JJ Wetherholt kind of falls in. If the Brendan Donovan does leave, we're not looking at going out and signing somebody with for that third base position.
No, I think between Gorman, Wetherholt, and Thomas Saggese, you have your second baseman and your third baseman, and then possibly your DH, right? Like if it's Saggese playing second and Saggese playing, or what did I say? Wetherholt at second, Saggese at third, Gorman your DH. Like that could happen in a world where you trade as well Wilson Contreras, which slides Burley to first, right? You end up pretty left heavy. Saggese's a righty that goes in there, but there's going to be a left heavy lineup next year. Like I don't think they're going to move all of these players, and two of which, by the way, are right-handers in Arenado and Wilson Contreras. But then I don't think they're going to go out there and add infielders, right? They're just going to be looking at it and saying, we've got enough infielders still left over. More of them are lefty than aren't, but that's just going to be the nature of the beast, I think, for this year. So, and because of the positional flexibility from that group, so JC could play either second or third. Gorman could play either second or third. Wetherholt, maybe that's true of him as well, but maybe they prefer him to be at second base. I don't really know. Time's going to tell on that. I think they're going to be perfectly fine across their infield, because you know that Mason's your shortstop, and you know that your first baseman, if it's not Wilson Contreras, is Burleson. And you know that they've got all the catchers that are going to be competing for time there, and kind of how that's going to play out. Center field, I think, should be Victor Scott II just about every single day. And then right field, as much as the numbers maybe don't dictate it, there's really no harm in just letting Jordan Walker go out and do it, because I don't think you have a lot of candidates unless you're seeing great things from a Joshua Baez at spring training and you want to propel a prospect that quickly to compete for the opportunity. And then that's where I still think like a Lars Nootbaar fits into left field, because they don't have a lot of obvious answers at that position either. So I think as much as a lot of moves could be coming, what you're looking to get back almost universally, I think, Joe, would be those pitching arms, the starting pitchers that could potentially fill out innings on your team, whether it's a long relief role because it's a little bit of a non-traditional looking bullpen, because you're not really sure about your number 4 starter and your number 5 starter. So your number 6 starter is just in your bullpen pitching every 3 or 4 days in bulk relief. Like, I think they're going to try to set up a scenario where it's a bunch of arms going down, and the top 5 are going to be in your rotation, or maybe it's a case where the 5 that survive, because there's obviously injuries to be worried about too. Like, I think the roadmap is there for what the Cardinals offseason would look like in terms of trading away these position players, getting interesting arms. The Giants have some of them, so that's where I think the Brendan Donovan thing fits. Of these names, just looking at the numbers, I think Landon Roupp is maybe the most interesting name. He's 27 years old, turns 28 in September, but had a 3.8 ERA and over 100 innings with close to a strikeout per inning last year. The fielding independent pitching was right about what the ERA was, 3.7 ERA for his career, 157 innings. Like, solid arm with a lot of team control. I think those are the types of arms the Cardinals would be looking at. So, not saying that you'd just be over the moon to trade Donovan for Landon Roupp, but a case where you get an arm to plug into that rotation competition, and you get a prospect that could become a star 2-3 years down the road. I think that's what the Cardinals are probably looking for here.
The Cardinals did add an arm today in the Rule 5 draft. We will tell you all about him right after this.
You want a backyard paradise next summer? Talk to Merrimack Pools and Outdoors now. No surprises, great design, straight pricing, and you could be swimming by Memorial Day. Hit SplashSTL.com. Merrimack Pools and Outdoors, turning big Griswold dreams into real St. Louis backyards for 25 years.
Missouri, your moment is finally here. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is live in the Show Me State. And you can get in on all the action, college basketball, NFL, college football, as the bowl games and the college football playoffs are getting started here in, I think, next Friday. Yeah, next Friday for the college football playoffs. You can get in on that. And if you haven't downloaded the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, America's top-rated sportsbook app, you can do so and use promo code STL Sports to bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets on America's top-rated sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use code STL Sports. New Missouri customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. That's code STL Sports. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present. Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Brenden, the Cardinals today took part in the Rule 5 draft. They added one player. They lost a player. They did not lose Blaze Jordan. He is still a Cardinal. They left him unprotected, and nobody picked him up. I will say this going into it. I have never really followed the Rule 5 draft all that closely in years past. I know when the Cardinals do get a Rule 5 guy, and you kind of look at that, and you know, okay, that guy's on your roster for the whole year. But looking at all of the moves that were made, it seemed like this was pretty busy today of the Rule 5 draft. I'd say about half the teams selected somebody. And for those that aren't aware, selecting a player in the Rule 5 draft means he is on your 26-man roster for the entire season. And if they are not on there, if they clear waivers, they must be offered back to the original team for that. So the Cardinals added a right-handed pitcher from the Marlins organization by the name of Matt Poussard. So I guess we will get used to hearing that name a lot in the season. Somebody needs to fill those innings. Why not him?
Yeah, Matt Poussard is a right-handed reliever, just turned 28 years old at the end of October. Has not made his major league debut because, of course, he wasn't on the Marlins 40-man roster. Last year in AAA Jacksonville, spent the whole year in AAA as a bullpen guy, 49 games, 1 start, 17 games finished, 4 saves. He pitched 62 and a third innings, 73 strikeouts. So if that can translate into anything close to a strikeout per inning in the big leagues, that would be great. 23 walks in that span, 3.3 walks per 9 innings, maybe a little bit on the high side for that. But yeah, I mean, it's the conversation we've had. They need arms. They are going to have guys that can fill out innings, and they'll be pushed. Like, this will be good for some of the guys that get these opportunities because, like last year, we were going, oh, Matt Swanson, turns out he's never pitched multi-inning stints before, really, in his professional career, and suddenly he's doing it at the big league level and looking good. Kyle Leahy, holy crap, he's doing it often and maybe so much that we should just put him in the rotation next year. Now they're going to do that. So I think that you can learn about some of these guys and maybe find some value where you otherwise would not have expected it based on the circumstances that the Cardinals will be going through. So that'll be something interesting to look for. But decent strikeout numbers in the minors, and he'll get an opportunity with the Cardinals and hopefully be tenable enough to where, you know, even if he's relegated to kind of that low leverage relief role, you're hoping to retain a guy for a full year and be able to, you know, have him controllable for years to come.
They did lose a guy. The Yankees, with the who were selecting 28th overall, took a pitcher by the name of Cade Winquist off of the Cardinals minor league roster. They said off of the Cardinals AAA roster, but Cade Winquist spent all of last year between high A ball and AA. Never made an appearance in Memphis for the Cardinals. Another guy, as you mentioned, 25 years old. He'll be 26 in the first month of the season next year. Last year in Springfield, he started 8 games for the Springfield Cardinals, 42 innings pitched in those games with 42 strikeouts, an ERA of 3.19 last year in Springfield. a guy that I again was never on my radar with the Cardinals. I can't imagine he was on your radar either, but something the Yankees saw or knew about him, they're willing to take a chance.
Yeah, and like when you think about taking a double-A starter, a guy who only spent a portion of the season at double-A last year, he started in high A and had like a 4.5 ERA. I imagine sometime in the summer there were promotions at the higher levels, and that opened up a spot in Springfield, and so they said, "Hey, let's bring him up anyway." He looks good there, but probably was like, did the fact that they promoted him during the season land him on the radar more because he thrived at double-A, and you were thinking, well, this wasn't a guy we thought we'd have to protect. But, was it a guy the Cardinals were really high upon? I'm not sure. What I think the Yankees, though, in grabbing a double-A starter that now has to go on their big league roster, unless they are really desperate in their rotation, they're probably going to convert this guy to a reliever. And he's got triple-digit fastball is what I'm reading about him. And so you figure maybe that plays up in a bullpen role. Like, is Cade Winquist pitching the seventh inning, throwing 102 for the Yankees next year? Like, that's a possibility. So, from that standpoint, maybe a little bit irksome that the Cardinals see this guy picked up by a contender. Like it's happened before to the Cardinals where a non-contending Padres team drafted Luis Perdomo straight out of high A and just said, we don't care. We're going to suck. Put him in the rotation. And like got to keep him as a result of that. When you're converting a guy into a reliever, which I don't know for sure that the Yankees are doing that, but it would make a lot of sense. I could see this working out for New York and them getting a nice little diamond in the rough there.
They so the reports say he throws 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
This is the first time the Yankees made a Rule 5 selection since 2011.
Kind of scares you, huh? like clearly they've got a vision for what they're doing. If this is something they haven't done since the last time the Cardinals won a World Series, like they're going to put this guy in the bullpen, I bet, and it's going to probably go well.
And so, who do we blame Mo for that, or do we blame Heim for that? Just asking.
Probably
now,
Mo.
So when
probably,
we get to
I gotta blame Mo, man. Yep, this will be our last thing we can blame Mo for, and after that, it's all up to Heim.
All right. Other news and notes from today: Pete Alonso took a 5-year, $155 million deal with the Baltimore Orioles. Reports saying the Mets didn't even put an offer on the table after seeing what other teams were out there giving him. Red Sox and Orioles were two of the big ones in all of this. It seemed like the Mets were unwilling to throw that third year onto anything with Pete Alonso, and he ends up getting 5 years from Baltimore, who already signed Ryan Helsley this offseason, and apparently aren't done yet with some of their moves.
They thought they could make it sustainable by homegrown talent that rises to the big leagues all at the same time and makes a go of it. But then they took a huge step back last year. So now it's like they're trying, I think, to not squander all that big wave of talent and say, let's build around them and see if we can't make a run at this thing in a pretty loaded AL East. But good for Pete Alonso is my reaction. Like, I don't know what Cardinals fans think of him. He's kind of the dopey guy, the big, strong guy. Everybody's got those narratives. But I think it's a shame a little bit that he produced pretty good numbers over the years for the Mets, and they just never did seem to appreciate him. Like, it was like pulling teeth to get him to come back on the 1-year deal last year. And now the market is giving him the opportunity to cash in. And look, that's not as big of a contract as some have signed, some big-time superstars, but he is a first baseman. That's always going to be a little less valuable. And $150 million is nothing to sneeze at. So I'm happy for Pete Alonso that he's getting to be somewhere where they clearly want him. And the Mets, I just think kind of they chose other players to spend all that money on, as Steve Cohen did. And Alonso's a good, consistent source of power. So I consider it to be a respectable move by Baltimore to say, we're going to pay for this thing that we don't have and we want more of. That's good. I love to see that.
And now that move is done, we even though I will say this, it has been a much more active winter meetings than I think we have seen in recent years with everything going on. But Pete Alonso, I think, was one of those big pieces that a lot of other teams were waiting to see where he would land before they went off and they made their moves. So now that is made, I think we will start seeing even more stuff happen over the next 2 weeks before maybe things get shut down between Christmas and New Year's.
Yes. Well, I didn't know. Was there more that you needed me to say there? No,
I
you didn't really ask a question, so I just kind of
I was kind of just leaving it out there. If you had anything more to say, I'd let you
Nope.
before I wrap things up today.
You put a nice bow on it. That was impressive.
All right. Well, I will do that again, even more so as I wrap up
God.
today's show. Every day, Cards Central 365 coming your way on STL Sports Central. And when and if the Cardinals make any major moves or trades, we will go live with our Cards Central instant reaction show and get your thoughts and opinions on it as we bring you the big breaking news. But until that happens, or until tomorrow, he is Brendan Schaefer, and I'm Joe Roderick. This has been Card Central 365 here on STL Sports Central.